So we bought this farmhouse last summer in June, and we thought naively that it would be ready to go and remodeled and ready for guests to come and stay here by the end of September. Well, as you can see from the snow and the release of this video, it took a lot longer and a lot more work in some instances than we anticipated, but we are finally finished and I can't wait to show it to you. If you want to come and do a farm stay with us, we will have a link beneath this video where you can check it out much more in depth, but I cannot wait to share the house with you. So come on inside to our 1916 farmhouse. So welcome to the living room of the farmhouse. And I have to say, the fireplace was one of my favorite transformations. So we'll have linked, you can go back and see the definite before. But we have this new mantle that my husband made, which is a live edge, large piece of quilted maple. And we actually were able to leave the same grate work and we just painted the brick, but there was a wooden insert that went in here, except there had been chimney fires and it wasn't operational. So we pulled that out and retiled this all new floor. And I just love it because it is pretty. It's electric, but it's also functional. And so this actually puts heat out, and you can choose to take the heat part off if you just want to have the ambiance of the light and the flames, or it actually is functional and does put a decent amount of heat out. Actually feels really good, especially right now because, as you saw from the beginning, we have snow on the ground. But the other things that I was really excited about this room is we found some ways to actually save and not have to paint this paneling. As you can see, this is knotty pine. It's like tongue and groove that's been put in here. And we originally thought that we were going to have to paint it because there were some holes and damage to it. So this section here, there was a big hole cut into it, and there was a large hole over there, and then there were some other holes, and it needed to be repaired, except you can't get this anymore. This is I believe it's from the 1930s. So you just can't get this wood anymore. But thankfully, we were able to find a contractor who was able to almost match this. I know I'm telling secrets now. I don't think you could tell if you didn't know, but now you'll know. So these 4 boards right here are not original. But with multiple coats of stains and sanding, we were able to get it to match really, really close. And then the pieces, there was a big square hole cut in here because from around the 1980s, there was some heaters that were put into the wall, but they weren't functional anymore. And so they'd been taken out. And of course, you're just left with this gaping hole. So these pieces here, we were actually able to use to patch some of the holes that were over here, which right now I've got a chair in front of this, but they actually went right here. And so there were some holes through here. So we were able to use those to patch this. And then one other spot, we did not have any more lumber, but I was able to find this grate, which this is just to cover. So we boxed in this hole and then painted behind it black. And we were able to put this cover over it. So at least you don't have this large gaping hole. But that meant that we were actually allowed to save all of the original wood paneling in here and keep it as historically accurate as we could to its vintage charm. So I was actually really excited that we were able to save that part. And you will see we do have new floors without. So the floors that were in here originally were really just mismatched different pieces directionally. There was some issues with transitions not being even and safe to walk through. So we just took and put all new flooring throughout the house, which I really like. It just kind of helps everything flow. And this in the dining room, we actually really only ended up painting Everything got a fresh coat of paint. This was probably the room that needed the least amount of anything. And I really do love this dining room. But now one of the reasons that the dining room is my favorite is because we have a picture wall from the family that we bought this place from. So the Hornbecks bought this place right after Lawrence Hornbeck got out from World War II. So they bought it, I believe in 1950 was the year that they bought the place. And this is from their family when they had it. So that is Lawrence, and that is on his horse Sugar, who was trained to rear on command. And his son actually told me, yep, he had Sugar trained to do a one-wheelie on instant command. And Lawrence loved horses. He was a great horseman. And actually, even when he was older in age, he still had horses. And I actually got a horse from him when I was in my early 20s. So it was really fun to see some of his original stock. And it was really cool because this picture shows the barn, part of the barn that is falling in. It used to be, instead of two separate barns as it is now, it was one full barn that had a whole hay mow and all of that. So it's kind of cool to be able to see that when it was kind of in its original glory in this photo here. And then this is their Herefords. So this has always been a cattle ranch, and we're planning on continuing that here. But it was kind of fun to see their herd and what the pastures looked like and the surrounding homes and whatnot in the neighborhood back from the 50s. And then this was Lawrence's brother-in-law. But what's really cool is to see the size of that fish. And that was quite common back here back then. So that was really fun. And also there's some homes that are throughout here now, but it's really fun to see how it was back then before our road. And we still live really rurally. It's not super populated, but before even some of the homes that are here now. And then this is Clara. So Clara was Lawrence's wife, and that is Robert, who we actually purchased the property from. And she had beautiful flower beds. So we hope at the front of the house to actually put this fence back in and bring back some of the flowers. But the rhododendrons and the azaleas that are still out there are actually what she planted. And when I was a little girl, I remember seeing her out there still working in those flower beds. And a lot of the landscaping that's still around the house can definitely be attributed to Clara and her love of flowers and what she did. So it's kind of fun. We've got like a family picture wall here honoring the people who had it before we did. Now, this front bedroom, I got to show you what we found. So this room, we had to do some work in because it was really small. And it's still small, but there was a large built-in closet that came out. Actually, it came out to here. And so you can imagine if there was a closet that went from here to here, there really wasn't any room to have the bed like this. You had to have it positioned the opposite way, and there was barely enough room for someone to go around to get in on the other side. And being this is meant as a short-term vacation spot, you don't really need a huge closet. And the closet was added. It wasn't even original to the room, because back in the day when this place was built in the 1960s, people didn't have nearly the amount of clothes we do now. And, they had their really nice Sunday dress-up outfit and then a few different work clothes, and that was it. So a closet this size was very normal in what most people had. So we decided to take out this large closet that had been added later that wasn't historical to the house so that there was more room for people to get in and out of bed. But what we found when we tore out this closet was this wallpaper. So this wallpaper we think is from the 1930s, as much as we can piece different things together. But because it was behind that closet, it is in excellent shape. I mean, it's not coming off the wall at all. There's just a few little nicks here and there, and I just fell in love with it. I thought it was beautiful. In fact, my husband was the one who's like, we cannot cover that back up. That needs to stay. Unfortunately, though, it didn't extend here because we were hoping that we could pull this off and it would just go the whole length of the wall. But as we started to kind of peel back these layers, we discovered that this was not here anymore. So we decided to just picture frame it in and just keep it as a complete focal point from that time period. So it was really, and it was kind of one of those things like when we first pulled it out and saw it, like until we had everything painted and all of that, I'm like, gosh, I don't know how that's going to look like. Is that going to look funny just having this smaller section of wallpaper on a wall? But I think it turned out really good. And part of me is, I know that there's companies out there that you can get to replicate wallpaper. And I like it so much. Part of me would like to see about getting it replicated and putting it up in our bedroom at our house. But I thought this was a really fun and exciting find. Now I have to say, aside from the fireplace, the kitchen was probably the other largest transformation that I was actually excited about. So we kept the original cabinets. So all of the cabinets are original, but we kind of ran into that again where we ended up having to paint them because this cupboard, the door had been removed and there was no way to match the original wood. And here, we were able to take wood from the closet that we dismantled, even though it didn't match 100%, in order to cut and put that here. But then we had to do some patching. This didn't have wood that went through here, so that had to be patched in. And then this had been cut, this opening. These used to be cupboards that came down all the way. However, when it was cut out, it wasn't straight. So like the bottom of this, we had to recut them and get everything to be straightened up. So of course, then you have cut marks and different things on all the wood. So the easiest solution to just make everything really look nice and match, because we had to patch and do some different work like that, was to paint it. But I knew that this being on the north side and just having one small window, we wanted it to be as bright as possible. So we went with a white on the top, and then we went with a darker gray on the bottom and the new hardware. But I was really excited because I wanted to try to leave as much as possible of the old while making it modern amenities. And so this light fixture was actually the original light fixture, and we left that here in the kitchen. And I'm actually really happy how it turned out. It's got the gold, like the gold leaf that's like in the glass. It's not like a sticker decal. Like it's actually part of it. And so we were able to use some copper elements and just some of the different mixed metals to kind of make that come cohesively together. And so I actually really like the light fixture. And we redid the countertops. So this was just really old, like Formica countertops. In fact, when we tore them up, unfortunately right here, it wasn't a piece that you could get up without it just ripping, but there was a newspaper article from Bellingham, and it was dated 1963. So we know that the last time that the kitchen was updated was from 1963, at least as far as the countertops and the backsplash. So that was kind of fun, but I was kind of bummed that I was really hoping that we could lift it up, but that didn't work. However it was glued down was done a little bit too effectively in order for us to get it. So the kitchen was really fun to see all of it come together. And then one of the changes that we did was we knew we needed to have a washer and dryer in here. And previously the washer and dryer, like the washroom, laundry room area, was over on this wall. And it was just single units that were kind of like here, which was then just really like open into the kitchen. So we had to, of course, put the electric in over there and do all of that and the different plumbing. But then this, we're able to have as a desk area, an extra work area if people want it when they come and stay. We'll have our guest book and house guidebook and all of that will be here. And this was really fun because I found this little desk at an antique store, and it's definitely from the early 1900s. So I was trying to put as many different pieces that were historic in here as possible. And this chair actually was in the house. It was in the basement when we bought it. So this chair is original to the house. It's definitely an older piece, but it just felt like it went really well with the little desk here. So this was kind of a fun transformation of this nook area compared to what it was before. And then the bathroom. Oh boy, the bathroom. So I have to say that this bathroom, it's very pretty now. This was probably the biggest piece of work. We originally thought that we would just be able to rip up, and we knew that there had been some water damage because it was kind of ripply, the vinyl flooring. But when we ripped it up, we actually ended up having to go down to the studs. There was a lot more water damage than we thought. And we thought that we were going to be able to use the cupboard base, just put a new countertop on and repaint it. And none of that proved to be true, which I feel like is kind of famous words for anybody who has gotten into doing a house remodel or any type of flip. There's always things that are going to be unexpected. And we thought as well that we would be able to, on the walls here, to just kind of pull back some of the stuff that was there and maybe have to sheetrock a few places. We ended up having to pull all the walls out and go down to the studs, which was actually a really good thing though, because originally this was like a back porch of the house because in 1916, it didn't have a bathroom. So this was added later. And whenever they added it on, there was no insulation on the exterior walls on the inside. So this is an exterior wall. This is an exterior wall, not a stitch of insulation. So it now has insulation all the way through. And this is actually the original window. And when we got it, they had it wrapped because it was just single pane. So they had it wrapped with like saran wrap to help keep it warmer in here with no insulation. I'm very sure it was drafty. So we were actually able to get a double paned piece of glass cut for this so that we could save this window. So we, as I said, like where we could, we tried to keep as much of the historical and original elements as possible to the house. So I was really excited that we could save the window, except bless our contractor's heart, when he was putting it in, ended up cracking right here. And so we have another piece of this glass on its way that won't be cracked, but you still get what it looks like. So this room gave us probably the most amount of heartache, but I'm really, really pleased with the way it turned out. And it was kind of a blessing in disguise because we didn't realize that there was no insulation in any of these exterior walls. So this is the second bedroom. And this one we didn't have to do really as much as work in here, but this one we were able to get new light bulbs and we didn't really have to do anything. And that is the original light fixture from when they first put electricity in here. So era-wise, it's from the late teens to the early 1920s. And I have to say, it's my favorite light fixture. I just love that one. But this room, we really didn't have to do a whole lot. We ended up painting the walls. There was a very old, outdated electric heater that was right here. And it got patched, and we thought that the right paint color had been chosen to just go over this patch. But as you can see, the can that was the dining room paint actually got grabbed. So this will be, in fact, correct paint color shortly. I just didn't get a chance to get that painted and fixed before we filmed today. So this room, we did end up putting in a new wall heater on, just because it's kind of farthest away from the heat source and the way that it goes in, so that we can make sure that this room stays nice and cozy for guests. And then we put a queen size bed in each of the rooms. And then the living room actually has a queen hide-a-bed in it. But this one is fun because there is a twin trundle bed that goes underneath here so that you can pull it out. So this room will actually sleep 3 people if needed. But I think my favorite part about this room, besides the light fixture, is just the view, because you can see the barns and you can see that mountain range, and then you can see the mountain range going up that way in the fields. So this is a really nice, relaxing view just to sit and look at. So this is the built-in bookshelf that's in the living room. And one of the fun things is this can here was actually Lawrence's. So we bought the place from his son, Robert, and his wife. And this was Lawrence's, and they said, you know, being you're restoring the place and kind of bringing it back, and that we would love for this to go back to the farmhouse. And so, I mean, it is tobacco, but I thought it was a really fun place and fun way to honor Lawrence as we restored what was his home and in his family for, well, gosh, almost 70 years. So we are planning on having workshops here where we will do homesteading, in-person live workshops, but the farmhouse is also available to come and do a farm stay. So as I said, the link is beneath this video description if you want to check it out farther, learn more about it, and we would love to have you come and stay with us here.